All right, welcome in-game live, prime time on this Monday now, February the 26th. Thank you so much for hanging out with us here as we've got a couple of games in the NBA, a couple of games in the NHL, 16 total games in college hoops with the marquee matchup coming up at the top of next hour in the Big 12 between Baylor and TCU. We'll have more on that game coming up, and not to mention, of course, the coach, James Young, will swing by in here. We'll get his thoughts on the limited NBA slate also, and we welcome in our good friend Adam Kaufman hanging out with us here over the next hour and 55 minutes or so. And although there's not a ton of games here tonight, we do have one quickly getting ready to go with the Brooklyn Nets, who I think would much rather be on the tee box somewhere and playing golf and maybe on the beach in Aruba than playing any more basketball here. But they do have the Memphis Grizzlies on the road. It has not been great for the Nets. It is a small number. I just don't see how the Nets are bettable as a favorite in any capacity here because I've seen Memphis not throw in the towel with all the young guys. There's only one way I could look at this game getting ready to tip off, and that would be the Grizz. Adam, I mean, I think the Nets are finished altogether.
So my favorite thing that you said just to begin the show is that it's almost March, which here in New England, yes. I know you're in Florida, but being in New England, that's a sign of good things to come, man. And March Madness is obviously right around the corner. I know we'll do some college basketball, but as you said, the Brooklyn Nets, I think you outlined it perfectly. You have a team that is, it's obviously not good. It's not going to be good. We're already into the Ben Simmons drama all over again. It's just rinse and repeat every single year. Will he, won't he? And if he does, for how long? All of that. And so he's out for the foreseeable future. Who knows? Might not play another game the rest of the year. And the Grizzlies, while they are not a good team in large part because of all the injuries and just, some degree of internal turmoil earlier in the year. And then John Morant comes back and then he's out for, obviously the significant injury that he suffered. But then it just feels like other than Triple J, Jaren Jackson Jr., whether it's Morant and Marcus Smart and all of these guys in and out of the lineup or out for long periods of time, they just continue to it's not like the old school Grizzlies grind or anything like that, but they're scrappy, they're plucky, they don't go away easy, and they've got that fight that team historically has just in its DNA going back to like the Zebo and Tony Allen days. The Nets don't have that, and so them being favored as you noted and being on the road no less, I think if I had to make a bet, I would ever so slightly lean on Brooklyn, which I realize the odds makers are doing with it -2, but ultimately it would be a stay away spot. If nothing else, I would probably look at the total in this game. And, it's a low total, 214.5. I would go over in this one. I think we're going to get points. I think we're going to get a close game it's going to be a battle between these two sides where, neither one is necessarily going to go away easily early, could obviously turn into a blowout. One team runs away with it in the fourth quarter, but I think it's going to be pretty close for the majority of this game. And usually when that happens, that means we're going to see some scoring and some battling down the stretch. So that's what I would look at. You could look at some props in this game as well if you really wanted to. Dennis Schroeder is going to be starting again. He's just wherever he is, he seems to fall into these opportunities, Joe. And so he might be a guy that you look forward to go over on some low totals.
Nets, just to give you an idea of just how terrible they are here. 8-25 straight up, 8-24-1 against the number in the last 33 games. Fired a coach along the way. No idea what to do with Ben Simmons. How they were even tied a couple of nights ago against Minnesota at the break was beyond me, but they only finished with 86 points there, and I think you nailed it, too. I think Taylor Jenkins is actually one of the more underrated coaches in the NBA. He has got Memphis playing hard. I mean, all the big-name guys are not available to them. These are all the young guys that they have given a shot to be able to get some playing time. It's an audition for Memphis, and I've seen them now since pretty much middle of January when everybody was ruled out for them. They've beaten Miami, they've beaten Milwaukee, they went through this stretch where we're going, nobody is running away. I mean, they barely lost to the Clippers the other night. Clippers only beat them by a couple of buckets, and they are playing hard. So there's just nothing redeeming about this Brooklyn team whatsoever. So I'm with you. It's Memphis or pass for me in this one as they're getting ready to tip off there. We do have a late night game with the Miami Heat, and we were just talking off air. There might be people they grab out of the stands and put a Heat jersey on them. I'm not sure they have enough people left and available in this game here. Tyler Hero, you said, has been ruled out already. We know Jimmy Butler serving the suspension, right? We already know that they are going to be shorthanded, to say the least, here tonight. And you've got a Sacramento team second of a back-to-back after a pretty physical game last night against the Clippers, in which they were on the road in L.A., not terribly far, but there's still some travel involved. But no Rozier, no Hero, no Jokic, no Butler, Bryant, Josh Richardson. I don't know who the hell is left. This might be the shortest rotation for Miami. But if there's one team that is literally the definition of next man up, it's the Miami Heat. I thought it was far too many at 7. I think it's down to, 6.5, somewhere in that, or maybe even back up to 7, 7.5. I don't trust Sacramento in this spot. Do you?
No, I bet Miami plus 7.5 earlier today. Actually, I bet it at 7, and then I saw it 7.5, and I put more on it. So I'm with you, and I'm looking for Miami to, at the very least, lose a tight game. As you said, I mean, minutes are going to be up. They're obviously undermanned. The time to really jump in to take advantage of this from a prop betting standpoint was earlier in the day before we got official word on guys like Tyler Hero, for instance, because as you said it, Hero, Terry Rozier, obviously Butler, Jovic, Bryant, Orlando Robinson is questionable last I saw. All of these guys are out. And you said who's left? Well, the projected lineup is DeLon Wright, Duncan Robinson, Jaime Jaquez Jr., Caleb Martin, Bam Adebayo. And so it's not exactly a who's who outside of Bam, obviously, although I guess Jaquez did find his way into the dunk contest somehow. But this is, you want to go over on these guys. I mean, especially if I'd have to look and see if the totals are still as low as they were, a few hours ago. But some of these guys, point totals are sitting at, 14.5, 15, PRA, points, rebounds, assists in the low 20s. Like you said, who's going to play outside of these guys? So go over, hope for a whole lot of production in this game, and you can cash in.
Yeah, it's I wouldn't be laying 7.5 here against a Miami team that has been there and done this before. All right, we'll get you caught up with the rest of the scoreboard when In-Game Live Primetime continues on the grid.
A great big that can block shots, a team that can play defense, and seniors that can put the ball in the hole. That's who you bet on. You don't bet on freshmen. You don't bet on teams that don't play defense. There you go.
I mean, you got to run the guy over to call a foul in a tie game in that kind of a spot. That was a bad job by those refs.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
If Tibbs can find a way to get the Knicks rolling again as everybody comes back, folks, they are going to shoot up the Eastern Conference standings. They're at 33 wins. I think the Knicks have a chance to maybe, folks, ready? You think I'm crazy? They could get all the way to 2. It is not out of the question.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Like the Minnesota Wild were down by 2 goals today. They were down by 3 goals, actually, today at one point. And they came back and won. Like teams like, the Edmonton Oilers and the Coyote game went back and forth. the NHL really, you could argue, really is the best sport for in-game betting, where you can pull the trigger on both teams.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in-game live primetime here on the SportsGrid Network. Joe Raineri alongside Adam Kaufman here as we've got a couple of other games going on in the association right now. They're at the break in Indiana. The Pacers coming off a really nice win yesterday against the Dallas Mavericks there. They are trailing the Toronto Raptors right now, 61-56. The Knicks starting to drop it into second gear here a little bit at the Garden. They are now up 7 over the Detroit Pistons, 34-27. And we had told you last segment that the Grizz at home taking on the Brooklyn Nets. They are just underway there. We also have tremendous hockey happening. I mean, if you like defense, do not watch the Capitals and Ottawa Senators. Whatever you do, you will see absolutely nothing that resembles defense in that game right now. It is 5-3. We are in the second period there, just a couple minutes into the second period. So buckle up. The goals are coming, and the Islanders stars just getting underway. So we do have interesting, Adam, when it comes to the conversation here about MVP in the association. There is no doubt what the Joker has been doing recently. I don't even want to say recently because I don't think that's fair. I mean, the guy is just a absolute triple. It's like, come on, what do you expect? It's why they won it last year. It's why they should be the favorites again this year, despite what your Celtics are doing here. The guy is a machine. But there's others that folks are getting a whole lot of buzz about when it comes to the MVP market right now. And I guess the guy right behind him, SGA, a lot of people don't think you can sleep on them or OKC. And I think one of those guys is our friend Scotty Farrell. He had some thoughts on SGA for the MVP earlier today on Coast to Coast.
I think Shea Gilgeous has been way more exciting for my money than the Joker. I think the Joker goes about his business every night per usual, hands down. It's just ridiculous what he does. I won't deny his greatness. But this guy, what Shea Gilgeous has done every single night, and they win every single night, and what he's done to make everyone around him play like, I mean, they're the youngest team in the NBA, and they're playing like a dynasty team. They play way above their age. They play way above their talent. They win everywhere. They blow everyone out. He is the face of the franchise. He's the best player on the team, and he just has made everyone else so phenomenally better that I think he's the MVP.
I can't argue with anything he said there, Adam. I mean, listen, SGA, we knew he was special last couple of years. I think they're a little ahead of schedule because of him. A lot of young guys there. Chet Holmgren got hurt last year, don't forget. So the nucleus of this OKC team, it begins and ends, I think, with SGA, and I think they are going to be very profitable to back for years to come. But for my money, there is nobody better than the Joker here. How do you see the MVP race?
So, I mean, I have a lot of different thoughts on this. I agree with everything that Scotty said, and I have been sort of banging that drum for weeks as well, that SGA is, I don't know that he's the NBA MVP, but he's my MVP. He's the guy that, in this alternate universe, Joe, where I've got a vote, he's the guy that I would go with. And, I think one thing that Scotty left out, which is important, it's not necessarily quantifiable, but it is important, is for Jokic, obviously, and I know he didn't win last year. He certainly could have. The voters felt like, finally, we got to give one to Joel Embiid. This is our opportunity. Let's do it. And frankly, he probably would have won the thing going away if he met the games played requirement this year. But obviously, with the injury, that ship has sailed. With Jokic, and I've spoken to voters about this, and it's not that they've come out and directly said, yeah, I'm not going to vote for him. But they have acknowledged that voter fatigue is a real thing. It's a real thing. Now, some of the reasons that he wasn't winning earlier in his career were absolutely absurd. He wasn't winning because, he hadn't won. And what I mean by that is he wasn't winning a regular season MVP because he hadn't won a title. It's some just totally backwards logic that voters were like pencil braining themselves, trying to decide whether or not the guy was deserving or not. And then obviously he starts to win, starts to go on deep playoff runs. And for some reason, they were able to then decide to, okay, we'll rip the Band-Aid and give this guy his flowers. But then he just year after year keeps playing better with, a good enough cast around him. But outside of Jamal Murray, pretty limited. I think we can all agree on that. And so voter fatigue is a legitimate concern, despite Jokic obviously sitting there as the odds-on favorite. And if that does come into play with enough voters who, he'll get votes, but if he's not, the bar none consensus, first place vote, because obviously they're first, second, third, like these guys, they have categories that they need to rank them, and then it's a point system after that. If Jokic is not the runaway favorite for first place votes, that's how a guy like SGA can sneak in. And statistically, obviously, he has been absurd. He's shooting about 55%. He's hitting almost 40% from three. These are career benchmarks for him. He's up over 30 points per game. Rebounds are up. Assists are up. As you said, face of that franchise, leader of this team, a team that nobody would have seen sitting at 40-17 right now, tied for the top of the West, ahead of teams like Denver, like Phoenix, like the Clippers, obviously the Lakers, who just because of the LeBron Davis factor, have name recognition and just, being LA, but they are sitting in front of all of these teams. Now the Timberwolves are too, surprises me a little bit, but as you said, just SGA and the coaching there and this young cast of characters, they have them ahead of schedule. If you really dive into the metrics, Joe, and I'm not going to bore people with this, but if you really dive into some of the advanced analytics, SGA is arguably having the best guard season that we have seen in the NBA since Jordan, literally. So, I mean, he has been incredible. He is absolutely deserving of the award. People, talking heads in the national media like to, just sort of create conversation in terms of my guy here in Boston, Jason Tatum, is getting all sorts of buzz right now on ESPN and elsewhere about how, best player, best team, 27 points a game. Shouldn't Tatum be the MVP? No, he shouldn't, because that's not what the award is. The award is not very simply best player on the best team. It is who is the most deserving and valuable to his team. Celtics, would they be a championship favorite without Jason Tatum? Of course not. But would the Thunder be anywhere close to where they are without SGA? No, they'd be like a play-in team. He is the guy that is driving that ship right now. He is elite. He is incredible, and I hope he gets the recognition he deserves.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens, because I do think it is kind of wide open here, but I also think the award is totally fugazi, because I've said
it's open
this
to interpretation.
I've always said it with Jordan. As long as Jordan stepped on the court in any capacity, Jordan was your MVP of the NBA, bar none. LeBron, Kobe, there were just guys where it's like, and that's what you were talking about, voter fatigue, where you can't tell me LeBron for however many years hasn't been the single most valuable asset to any particular team he was on. And it's been like that over the last couple of decades. So you can't always give it to him. We get that. But this is a wide open consideration for, and it's the first time in a while. And I think if Embiid didn't get hurt, he too would be right at the front of that list with the kind of year that he was having also, and he won't be eligible, obviously, because of those rules on the games played. But, I mean, nobody was hitting it better than what Embiid was doing. But now, don't sleep on Doncic either, who quietly is having quite the year. So a lot goes into the MVP in the NBA. We'll talk more about it coming up here on The Grid.
A great big that can block shots, a team that can play defense, and seniors that can put the ball in the hole. That's who you bet on. You don't bet on freshmen. You don't bet on teams that don't play defense. There you go.
I mean, you got to run the guy over to call a foul in a tie game in that kind of a spot. That was a bad job by those refs.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
If Tibbs can find a way to get the Knicks rolling again as everybody comes back, folks, they are going to shoot up the Eastern Conference standings. There are 33 wins. I think the Knicks have a chance to maybe, folks, ready? You think I'm crazy? They could get all the way to 2. It is not out of the question.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Like the Minnesota Wild were down by 2 goals today. They were down by 3 goals, actually, today at one point. And they came back and won. Like teams like, the Edmonton Oilers and the Coyote game went back and forth. The NHL really, you could argue, really is the best sport for in-game betting, where you can pull the trigger on both teams.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in-game live. We are PrimeTime here on this Monday in the SportsGrid Network. Joe Raineri alongside Adam Kaufman. We welcome in our good friend, the coach, James Young, hanging out here as we've got a couple of games underway in the association, including the Pacers-Raptors now in the third. It's a 67-66 game there. Raptors in front by 1, 50-41 now with about 4 minutes left to go before the break. Knicks at home handling business here against the Pistons, and 21-12 Nets seem to have found a team they can actually look halfway decent against here in the Grizzlies, but I would caution folks, plenty of opportunity yet for them to blow this game here. And Coach, we were just talking about the MVP race, and the numbers that the Joker has put up recently have been just, gaudy, obnoxious, you name it. They are just, anytime we're talking Wilt, and that's what we're comparing him to, the numbers are over the top. But he's not alone. There are a lot of guys. This is one of those MVP races where, and we just said it, right? If Embiid didn't get hurt, it'd be another name we'd have to take into consideration here. So SGA's in play, the Joker's in play, Doncic's in play. It's kind of wide open this year, isn't it?
Yeah, Joe, it's more wide open than we think. And I think one reason why is, let's be honest, and AK did a great job of talking about it. There's voter fatigue. There's a lot of voter fatigue in this league. It's happened. Think about this. Jordan, you could argue, and he said it right. Jordan could have won MVP every year. Kobe could have almost won it every year. Shaq could have won it almost every year. Never did. So there's definitely a fatigue there. So to me, although he's minus 155, I don't think it's him. I really look at, in my opinion, SGA should be the pick. For what he's done, the metrics he's done, the usage rate, the amount of points, rebounds, assists, without turning the ball over, shooting it at over 50% from the floor, he would be my pick for MVP, personally. Now, I'm going to bring my New York bias into this and say I still think he's not going to win it. I think Brunson at 19,000, I think that's absurd. Absolutely absurd. This Knicks team, the year before he got there, was going nowhere. Look at their record with Jalen Brunson in the lineup the last 2 years. They're playing without Julius Randle. They're playing without OG Anunoby. Now, you could talk about the 4-game slide before the break, but they were losing guys left and right. Besides that, Brunson has put this team on his back. So to me, that's a real dark horse. Won't get there. But to me, it should be SGA if you think about voter fatigue and the season that he's putting on in OKC.
Coach, so Joe and I were, it'd be unthinkable to somebody from the awards, the number ridiculous. Of awards they could win. They could win Coach of the Year, they could win MVP, they could win Sixth Man. There are all sorts of awards that OKC obviously could come away with. And as you talked about earlier, Joe, too, this team, at least if it stays healthy, you mentioned the Holmgren injury last year. If this team stays healthy, it's not going anywhere. Sam Presti still has just a treasure trove of draft picks that they can go out and acquire whoever they want, basically that's available anyway to come in and boost their chances. They went out and got Gordon Hayward for peanuts. Now we'll see if he can, actually stay on the floor and help them during a playoff run. That's always the question with him over the last few years. But we got another game coming up tonight here, Coach, and we were talking about this one earlier, the Heat at the Kings. Last one of the night starts in about 90 minutes, so people got time to kind of dissect this thing, think about it. On the one hand, Miami is severely undermanned. None of its top players outside of Bam are available for this game. It's going to be a short roster, short rotation, but spread seems a little long, plus 7.5 for Miami at Sacramento. Joe and I both like the Heat to cover, maybe even surprise and win this thing. What about you?
AK, it's very simple. The best coach in the NBA is Eric Spoelstra. And if there's a guy with one game with a depleted roster that will drum up his players, you're not good enough. They're going to kick our tail. It's going to be a 40-point game. They're going to embarrass you. If there's a guy that does this and gets his team all drummed up to cover or steal a game, it's Miami. Because number one, they're going to get into your stuff defensively because Spo demands it out of them all the time. Secondly, you have a Sacramento Kings team who was on a second leg of a back-to-back. Now, I know it's in-state traveling from LA to Sacramento, but a big win, 16-point win on the road. Doesn't it smell like a letdown spot for Sacramento? And a team like Miami just hangs around and hangs around and hangs around. And all of a sudden, it's a 2-point game with 2 minutes left to go. To me, people may think the three of us are nuts. Maybe we're doing a 3-man weave and we're going to the wrong basket. I don't know. But I believe you guys, and I agree with you guys all the way. Miami plus the points. Spolstra will find a way to keep it close, and I would not be shocked if he stole it. There was a game, I think it was Milwaukee, had just come off a big win the night before, a couple of weeks ago, right? They played Miami, and Miami beat them by about 40. So if there's a team that can do it one game, with a team with a rest disadvantage on the other side, it's Miami Heat. Give me the points.
Yeah, I'm with you there, Coach. Nobody does next man up like the Miami Heat. Let's talk a little bit about the one big game tonight in college hoops coming up top of the hour. Big 12 action between Baylor and TCU. And, I said this earlier today, Coach. I think Baylor and Michigan State are very similar from the standpoint they can't get the ball down low, Coach, and win games and close them out. They're far too reliant on their guards, and which is good to a point because they're very talented, but they don't have that big interior presence, and it cost them against Houston. It cost them a triple overtime loss to this very same TCU team. They can't close anybody out, and they are on the verge of losing another game here tonight against TCU and Jamie Dixon. How you looking at this one?
What's really amazing, guys, if you really think about this, is I was on InGame Live with Scotty Farrell during the Baylor-Houston game, a Baylor team that was getting absolutely bludgeoned to death. Houston was doing an outstanding job of just destroying their ball screen offense. They had nothing. And then all of a sudden, they roar back. When you sometimes roar all the way back and you get so close to a big win at home, and then you got a one-day prep, and then you got to go on the road to Fort Worth and go against Jamie Dixon, who does as good of a job as anyone in the country, and he doesn't get enough credit for what he's done at TCU. To me, letdown spot, took a lot of wind out of him. Baylor usually isn't good on the road. TCU very good at home. Give me TCU on the money line, minus 134.
So you don't like the idea of a Baylor bounce back here after what we saw against Houston? I mean, that was a game that Baylor should have won, never mind covered.
Well, you know what the crazy thing is, and maybe this is the coach in me, I never thought, honestly, that they were going to lose, that Houston was going to lose that game. I just never thought, because I thought Juwan Roberts was screwing around in that 1-3-1 a little bit too much, and he started to make enough plays. And the key thing is, and this is why I don't trust Baylor. Okay, you storm all the way back. It's back and forth in overtime. You finally get the lead for the first time all game, and you don't get a stop. And then you turn the ball over 2 times in a row. So to me, this Baylor team is inconsistent, particularly on the road. I just am a big believer in Jamie Dixon and what he's built down there. I think the hashtag is Defend Fort Dixon, which I think is a pretty cool, funny hashtag that they have when they're down at Fort Worth. And maybe it's my bias that I'm good friends with Xavi Lopez and Mark Campbell, who are on the women's staff at TCU. But I'm going with Defend Fort. I'm still going to go with TCU on the money line. I think they have enough to get it done at home.
Another one of those unranked home favorite versus ranked opponent. It's been pretty profitable here this year to back those unranked home favorites here. They're favorites for a reason, and everybody, Coach, is going to go, there's no way Baylor could lose 3 games in a row. Well, they already did once this season, and they could very well do it again here tonight. You have the Knicks going on right now. Is there anything in this Knicks game you're keeping an eye on here?
Well, I did the DraftKings did an interesting. I thought it was free money, but the Knicks are having to work for it. It was Jalen Brunson 2+ threes. Knicks win at even money. I'm like, the Knicks were 12-point favorites. Brunson more usage rate, ball in his hands. He's already got 2 threes in the first quarter. But the crazy thing is, the Pistons are kind of hanging around this game a little bit. But I'm sure Tibbs will play his starters. He played Brunson the entire first quarter and the first 2 minutes of the second quarter. So Tibbs is no way in hell letting this game be a loss. He'll play Jalen Brunson 49 minutes out of 48 if he can get the win. I still think the Knicks win, but Detroit looking better. I don't think they're the worst team in the NBA. That's the Washington Wizards. They're awful. I don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, well, they're pulling away now, 62-55, final 20 seconds. Cade Cunningham, baby. He's got 20 in the first. They're looking a little more competent, that Detroit team, aren't they, with all that youth there? Coach James Young, we appreciate it as always, my man. Best of luck with the plays here. We'll close out this hour coming up here in Game Live.
A great big that can block shots, a team that can play defense, and seniors that can put the ball in the hole. That's who you bet on. You don't bet on freshmen. You don't bet on teams that don't play defense. There you go.
I mean, you got to run the guy over to call a foul in a tie game in that kind of a spot. That was a bad job by those refs.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
If Tibbs can find a way to get the Knicks rolling again as everybody comes back, folks, they are going to shoot up the Eastern Conference standings. There are 33 wins. I think the Knicks have a chance to maybe, folks, ready? You think I'm crazy? They could get all the way to 2. It is not out of the question.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Like the Minnesota Wild were down by 2 goals today. They were down by 3 goals, actually, today at one point. And they came back and won. Like teams like, the Edmonton Oilers and the Coyote game went back and forth. The NHL really, you could argue, really is the best sport for in-game betting, where you can pull the trigger on both teams.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York team has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in-game live. We are prime time here on this Monday. Joe Raineri alongside Adam Kaufman here as we're keeping our eye on the limited slate here in the association. The Knicks have made it to the break, although anybody who might have laid the 6 in the first half, you're probably not happy with a 62-58 Knicks first half lead here. Give credit to Detroit. They are hanging in there, shooting 52%. From the floor here, getting it done, keeping it close, but a lot of basketball still to be played there. Also, the Pacers, every time they take 2 steps forward, the Raptors are answering here, 82-75. Pacers are down right now with about 3.5 minutes to go in the third quarter. And the Grizz and Nets, the Nets 37, Memphis 27 here. Still 10 minutes to go here in the first half. And the NHL, just 4 games on tap here. The Islanders have put a puck in the net. That's ironic. 1-0 over Dallas here in the waning 60 seconds or so here in the first period. 1-0 here, Islanders there. And then in just an entertaining game between the Capitals and the Senators right now, Adam, 6-3. In this one. We still got 2 minutes to go in the second period, but it looks like I'm thinking more goals are still coming in that game. And then we've got the Oilers-Kings, Kraken coming up against your Bruins for a little late night here. Which games are you invested in here tonight on this 4-game slate?
So I'm one of my bigger hockey bets, which appears well on its way to going against me, is on the Senators money line. I was thinking about it, kind of going back and forth and debating. Do I skip aside, just go with the over in this game? Because it seemed like, anything that I was reading pregame or, some of the numbers I was looking at, pretty much everything supported just there being goals, and most obviously were on the Ottawa side. It's why the Sens were favored as much as they were. I think it was minus 140 where it closed, but the over obviously was appealing. I just, the fact that the Caps are doing what they're doing offensively in this game is kind of blowing my mind. But as you said, we'll probably get more goals in this game. Already sitting at 9. I in a perfect world for me, that's all on the Ottawa side, and you get a whole bunch in the third period. But I don't think that that's going to happen. So I'm already kind of mentally chalking this one up as a loss. I am on the Islanders money line, believe it or not, at plus money. I know that's not what a lot of people would have been expecting tonight in Dallas. Also have them at over 2.5 goals. We'll see if that gets there. It's early and trending, I guess. Pacing for that, up 1-0 at almost the end of one period. Beyond that, I don't have too much going in the NHL. The Bruins, as much as I love them with all my heart, being the Boston guy and having the bias that I do, they're you sort of forget the record for a moment and you just watch them on a nightly basis, and they're very Jekyll and Hyde, especially of late on this West Coast trip. They're playing long games, meaning, it just feels like they're going to extra time, overtime, shootouts, whatever, every single night, oftentimes taking a loser point. I mean, they've got 13 overtime or shootout losses this year. That's absurd, for where we're sitting here in late February. It's nuts, but I mean, it contributes to rising you up the standings and chasing that President's Trophy. Not that anybody ever wants that. Everyone views it as a playoff jinx anyway, but the Bees, they're good. They're obviously good. David Pastrnak hasn't recorded a goal in the last couple of games, and he does not go on these long, prolonged droughts by any stretch when it comes to scoring. So, you look at him to score a goal, it's pretty close to even money. I was looking earlier, I think minus 105. That's probably a good investment tonight just because he's going to have the itch, man. He's going to be, throwing the puck on net a little bit more. You may want to look at the over on his shot attempts as well. Maybe even consider a multiple point game for him at plus money. I just think it's going to be a good night for Pasta there in Seattle. But whether or not the Bruins win, we'll see. But those are, that's kind of the big stuff that I've got my eye on. It's not a big slate, much like the NBA, obviously. There's only the one other game, the Kings and the Oilers. And, I mean, how much fun has Edmonton been to watch, since the early season struggles and the team finally figuring it out. And now they're just, they might do what Washington's doing tonight. I mean, they just score at will with ease and have such incredible top-end talent that it's a joy to watch.
Yeah, no, it has been here, though they've had to rough it here. Lost the Battle of Alberta the other night against Calgary. Not great, but they are certainly have. You want to talk about a roller coaster of a season, right? Underperform, fire their coach, then they rattle off, these ridiculous amount of wins all together, and now they've had a little rough stretch here, but. Nothing has been more of a roller coaster than you mentioned it with your Bruins, man. I mean, I have them as 5 straight now overtime games that they have played in just this week in this West Coast road trip here. And it started before the West Coast trip there in that final game at home before they left. I mean, they lost the other night to Vancouver. They had a lead again heading into the third. And ended up losing the game, which I think was the 8th time that has happened. And then you couple that with the loss to Florida in the playoffs last year, in which they had the lead just about in every game, it felt like there, and couldn't hold on to it. I mean, Bruins fans got to be talking to themselves here a little bit. I don't even know how they're still 1 game up on Florida. But if I'm Boston, and I've said this here in Florida, I don't want the number 1 seed. Like, every time the number 1 seed usually gets bounced out rather quickly here. So if I'm Boston, I'm probably like, hey, listen, we can choose good. I'm all right with 3. We don't have to kill ourselves here. But you also have to close out some games, and you have to stop going to overtime. They're not exactly the youngest team either, are they?
No, I mean, I guess a little bit younger than they were when they still had Bergeron and Krejci, as their top 2 centermen. Yeah. Obviously, both those guys are retired. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it's not a young team. It's not like the way we were talking about the Thunder in the NBA or anything like that. They got all these, spry and fresh legs and everything. It's interesting to see, I mean, you could look at this team on the one hand and say they're overachieving. I mean, most people looked at them coming into the year and said, yeah, I mean, you've lost some key guys, but should be a playoff team at the very least. But, when you say that, you're talking like 6, 7, 8 seed. You're not talking about threatening for the President's Trophy. And so credit to the guys that are there. Marchand, the captain, Pasternak, a great supporting cast. Obviously, the head coach, Jim Montgomery, they've had great success since he's arrived, the start of last year. But, ultimately, as you said, they're sort of beating themselves at the end of these games, whether it's dumb penalties or just a failure to close things out or allowing bad goals. And they're still in this goalie tandem rotation that is really just been the Bruins way since long before Montgomery or either of these 2 guys. It was, Tim Thomas and Tuukka Rask, or Rask and, whomever else after that. I mean, it's platoons. It just feels like are what the Bruins do. I mean, it's not like 50-50 with, these 2 versus, some of the ones in the past, but it makes you wonder how they're going to approach it when the playoffs roll around. What are they going to do with the trade deadline, obviously right around the corner? Do they have enough confidence in, Ullmark was the guy last year. He won the Vezina, but this year Swayman's been the better one, and Ullmark, really fizzled in the playoffs. Do they have enough faith in Swayman to where they look at it and say, all right, he can be our number 1. We can bring up a guy to be our backup. He's going to shoulder the load. We'll see if we can get something for Ullmark and, help our depth in another area, be it forward or defense. I imagine they won't, but a lot of people certainly around here are talking about that right now as a viable option for the Bruins going forward, because they got to figure out. Last year it was really, as the season went along, it became Stanley Cup or bust, right? Because this team had more wins, more points than any team in NHL history. This wasn't just, they're the 1 seed. It was, this team is record setting. And then between injuries, running out of gas, underachievement, Florida surprising them, call it what you want, they flame out in round 2 and just, no excuse for it. Now this year, after losing some key pieces, making a lot of changes in the offseason, they're sort of shockingly right back here again. Now, how do you get over the hump?
Yeah, and they're going to need to, it would start by not playing every game to overtime. That would be great. I think Ullmark is going tonight. I believe Swayman went last night. So, and Grubauer will be in there for Seattle. So certainly a relatively decent price for the Bruins, who let's face it, are the better team, although Seattle has underperformed a little bit here. Total hovering around that 5.5 in that one here. And then, of course, the 6.5 with the Kings and the Oilers there. And we'll see if the Oilers can get it done here tonight against the Kings. And the Islanders are holding on 1-0 here, end of one now in that matchup here. And we're getting ready, of course, for the third period there with the Senators and the Capitals. I mean, and we just watched a game like this yesterday in which Philadelphia and Pittsburgh were just a battle royal going on, a big barn burner yesterday. And we kept saying on the show, like, you know what? I think I'm just going to keep betting the over because I don't think they're done scoring here. 9.5, 10.5, 11.5. I think they finished with 13, 14 goals. It kind of feels there's no reason for me to think this thing ends with 9 goals. So I don't know. Am I going to have to dabble in here to make the third period interesting here? 6-3. You think we get 3 goals in the third? Because if the Senators score quick, then it could be all bets off here, because then we could possibly get the empty netter as a possibility too if they can cut the lead here early in the third period, which would be great for you.
I think that's what it would take. I think it would take an Ottawa goal, to sort of, re-engage the Capitals, who might just be kind of, coasting at this point in time. I mean, obviously we're watching this thing, and I just pulling up the box score so I could look at when everything was scored. It was, obviously all throughout the first, but then, in the 3 goals in the second period there, it was 2 in the first 2 minutes and then only 1 the rest of the way. So I think these two teams are, already showing signs of slowing down, and clearly with the Caps doubling up the Sens, it's well out of hand. So unless you get that quick Senators goal to again just sort of have the Caps have to put the foot on the gas a little bit again, I think that we probably aren't going to just go on this goal scoring barrage. If this thing starts slow and you get 5 minutes still no goals, I would say that dream is dead. Not that goals can't happen quick, we've seen it already, but I think you either get a quick one from the Sens inside the first 2 minutes, or it's probably not going to get more than 10 goals in this game.
I don't hit the in-game number 11.5 right now in this one, as they'll get ready to drop the puck here to start the third. And I'm kind of with you. I need a quick goal here by Ottawa would be fantastic and get this thing going. Also, the Islanders in-game total 5.5. I didn't expect a ton of goals in this one to begin with. But it's not Ottinger in goal for Dallas. It's Wedgwood. So against Sorokin, still 5.5 is what the in-game total is for there. And I still don't think we're going to see a ton of goals and more than 5.5 of them. So we might dabble in that one as well, as we'll close out the first hour of In-Game Live Prime Time. We'll do that next on the Grid.
A great big that can block shots, a team that can play defense, and seniors that can put the ball in the hole. That's who you bet on. You don't bet on freshmen. You don't bet on teams that don't play defense. There you go.
I mean, you got to run the guy over to call a foul in a tie game in that kind of a spot. That was a bad job by those refs.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
If Tibbs can find a way to get the Knicks rolling again as everybody comes back, folks, they are going to shoot up the Eastern Conference standings. There are 33 wins. I think the Knicks have a chance to maybe, folks, ready? You think I'm crazy? They could get all the way to 2. It is not out of the question.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Like the Minnesota Wild were down by 2 goals today. They were down by 3 goals, actually, today at one point. And they came back and won. like teams like, the Edmonton Oilers and the Coyote game went back and forth. The NHL really, you could argue, really is the best sport for in-game betting, where you can pull the trigger on both teams.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in as we look to close out this hour of in-game live prime time. Another hour to go here, and of course, getting ready for a couple of NHL pucks to drop here in the 9 o'clock hour. We'll get you set up there, and of course, we also have college basketball, the big game coming up in the Big 12 here between the Baylor Bears and TCU. In TCU, a huge game, really, for both of these teams here, as TCU just played this game against Baylor a couple of weeks ago. It went to not one, not two, but 3 overtimes, and they were able to take down the Baylor Bears on the road. Now they're home, and of course, Baylor coming off of that extremely disappointing game against Houston at home. This would be a 3rd consecutive loss, and it just feels like suddenly this year, the Big 12, Houston's made their presence felt. BYU, Kansas is not the same old Kansas. It feels like it is a wide open Big 12 tournament this year here, Adam.
Yeah, it does. I mean, focusing in on tonight, what I'm trying to kind of, so I bet Baylor plus 2.5. Love coach.
Great.
I know he's on the other side. I did this
Bounce
earlier
back
in the day. So, I'm looking for the bounce back. I'm looking to avoid the 3-game skid. And, here's what scares me. And I know Cam Stewart's going to join us next hour. He and I, when we were doing the football show on Saturdays during the season, we would talk about this all the time. It gets a little scary when it feels like most people are on something, like do you zag when others are zigging, right? And it feels like the vast majority of bettors that, I trust in the space are on Baylor plus 2.5. That being said, on Saturday, Kentucky was the chalk. North Carolina was the chalk. Wake Forest was the chalk. It all hit. Baylor, a lot of people were on too, and that one didn't pan out. Sunday, everyone was on St. John's. That one hit. So I'm hoping that trend continues with Baylor tonight.
Yeah, we got a update from North Carolina you're not going to believe either. We'll do that as we kick off another hour in-game live prime time.
getting smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome in. Off and running another hour of in-game live primetime here on the Sports Grid Network. Raineri alongside Adam Kaufman here as we are getting ready for the college hoops game of the night with Baylor and TCU. Adam's on Baylor here. Looks like they're going to go off at about a 2.5-point dog. I took the under earlier today. At around 147.5. It looks like it's down to 145.5. I do think it's going to be a little tighter, this one, and don't be fooled by the last time these teams played and they both dropped 100 points. That was triple overtime. So I do think this is going to feel kind of like a Big 12 tournament matchup here because Baylor is going to want this game, and they can ill afford to get into some shootout that gets away with them. So I'm expecting some defense in this one, but we got a hell of a game going on in two spots right now, one in the ACC and one in the Big 12. And Adam, we talked earlier, you were all over West Virginia here tonight, getting what felt like far too many points against K-State. And it looked like a blowout. At one point, K-State was up by as many as 20. It's a tie game now here with a couple of minutes to go. Oh, I'm sorry, West Virginia just took the lead, 77-74, with about a minute and a half to go. And the same thing with North Carolina. Every time North Carolina, taking on the University of Miami, tried to pull away in this game, they would just take 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. It's a 2-point game. 36 seconds left to go. Virginia has the ball, but these two games looked not even remotely close to what they look like right now about 20 minutes ago.
No, and definitely not what expectations were. You're talking about Baylor, obviously, in desperation to, get that win tonight and get the monkey off the back. Well, that was how you were talking earlier about Kansas State and people figuring that, all right, like K-State can't afford any more losses right here, being a bubble team. And it looked like that was the response coming out. 22-point lead at halftime. West Virginia was dead. I mean, it was back to Morgantown. This thing was over. And then somehow, some way here in half number 2, obviously they have stormed back, as you said, have taken a lead with about a minute to go, up a couple points. Now, I think that win or lose, if you had West Virginia plus 10, plus 9.5, that's in real good shape, so long as it doesn't go to overtime. Obviously in overtime, things have a way of maybe getting out of hand. So hopefully that doesn't happen. I do not personally care if West Virginia wins this game. Kansas State needs it more. Go ahead, take it. Just take it by less than 9. That's what I care about. And Amen. That UNC Miami game, I mean, I'm going to be doubly wrong on this one. I'm hoping not, triple wrong. And what I mean by that is I've got the under in this game. I know you're on the over. I've got the under in this game. And if this game ends in regulation, that's going to hit. And hopefully it does. But it's a 2-point game with about 25 seconds left. So we'll see. But, I already, because North Carolina, as you've mentioned a number of times, like just Miami, would not go away. North Carolina would not put Miami away. Even, go on a run, get up by 5, 6, 7. It's like, okay, here's where the Tar Heels wake up. And it just, nope, bad turnover, bad foul, back come the Canes. And, you blink and you're tied again. That has been the story of this game. I had UNC to cover 7.5, 8 in the opening half. Didn't happen. Had them to, cover 13.5 in the game. Not going to happen. They'll probably win. They'll probably escape this thing. But this is not one of those games that, as you get closer and closer to tournament time here, is going to really endear UNC to the betting public and to its fans. That's for sure.
Yeah, no, it's kind of amazing to me here as we had a situation in which North Carolina, Davis has 42 points in this game. Yeah. Nobody else has double digits in points for North Carolina. And that's kind of where it started to go off the rails a little bit here because it seems like there were a lot of North Carolina players at times just sitting around watching and feeling good about them, setting some sort of record here, I believe, with 42 points, but they didn't realize they still have a game to play. In the meantime, Miami with once again another late scratch with Poplar, and Nigel Pack again didn't go. So Miami just absolutely crushed with injuries this season, and they were once again. But 8 seconds left to go. Looks like 73-70 in this one, and this one will keep going to the foul line. So get ready for another Big 12 matchup, though, between TCU and Baylor. That should be a good one. And we've got possible record happening here tonight in one of the most disgusting games we will ever talk about on this show. And I will just let you know what's going on because it is absolutely putrid on so many levels, but it has to be brought up. There is one remaining college basketball team and program that does not have a win this year, and that team is Mississippi Valley State. They're 0-27 on the season. We just saw Detroit, the University of Detroit, a couple of weeks ago, take on IUPUI, also winless on the season, and they finally got off the schneid there and beat and won their only win of the season. They're taking on Prairie View, who is just putrid as well. There is no way Prairie View, I can count maybe on my two fingers the amount of times Prairie View A&M has been a favorite over the last 5 seasons. They are laying 10 points here, but if they are going to eliminate this 0-win situation they got going, this is, as far as the remaining 3 games they have, this is the one they can do it, and they are a plus 400 home dog in this one, Mississippi Valley State. So if you want to go disgusting here tonight, you can throw a couple of bucks down on the team that has not won a game all season long, but will have an opportunity to actually win one here tonight. So that is the kind of disgustingness we are more than capable of providing to you here on In-Game Live Primetime. We also have,
who's storming the court, Joe? If they win this thing, who's storming the court?
They will, and they should.
Well, when Detroit won its game, it was one guy. It was one person.
That's
probably
correct.
Someone with tonight's going to be the one guy with a plus 400 ticket.
Well, the one person might probably actually just work there because they got to clean the floor as soon as the game's over. And they might just accidentally show up and get on the court because I'm not sure there's going to be a whole lot of people in the stands there. But yes, I think they'd be more than happy to storm the court if they finally get the win this year. So we'll keep you posted as In-Game Live Primetime continues.
A great big that can block shots, a team that can play defense, and seniors that can put the ball in the hole. That's who you bet on. You don't bet on freshmen. You don't bet on teams that don't play defense. There you go.
I mean, you got to run the guy over to call a foul in a tie game in that kind of a spot. That was a bad job by those refs.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
If Tibbs can find a way to get the Knicks rolling again as everybody comes back, folks, they are going to shoot up the Eastern Conference standings. There are 33 wins. I think the Knicks have a chance to maybe, folks, ready? You think I'm crazy? They could get all the way to 2. It is not out of the question.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Like the Minnesota Wild were down by 2 goals today. They were down by 3 goals, actually, today at one point. and they came back and won. Like teams like, the Edmonton Oilers and the Coyote game went back and forth. The NHL really, you could argue, really is the best sport for in-game betting, where you can pull the trigger on both teams.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in-game live, and we are prime time here on the Sports Grid Network as we've got a couple of games hanging in the balance here in college basketball. We also have some games hanging out in the NBA in which have gotten, well, pretty interesting here. 88-80, Knicks on top of the Pistons here with about 3 minutes to go in the third. Pacers were doing their best to try to get back into this game, but the Raptors said, I don't think so. 117-111, still 3.5 to go there. It is 66-40, Nets on top of the Grizzlies at the break there. Plenty of time for them to throw up all over themselves and let them back in. And then the Heat and the Kings coming up at the top of next hour here, and I don't know that we've had the Islanders still 1-0. No score with the Senators and Capitals, of course. And at the bottom of this hour, Kings Oilers. Did you have anything in the Knicks and Pistons game that you were keeping an eye on?
Yeah, so I had the over for Cade Cunningham, and what was weird about that, and I'm talking about his points, what was strange was earlier in the day it was 21.5, and I don't know what news ultimately triggered this, but it went down to 20.5 and then dropped to 19.5, which I think is where it ultimately closed. I had bet it over 21.5. Now, obviously, he soared past that. He's sitting at 32 and counting right now, late third. Just a great matchup for him, and he has gone out and crushed. And that, by the way, was plus money. When I bet the over 21.5, which was, I did it a couple of times. I bet it, earlier, and then I bet it again a little bit later in the day after some of the line movement. And because the line had dropped to 19.5, going again at 22 plus was right around plus 120. It was, you were not getting your traditional minus 110 or something like that. I mean, that was a big jump that you were able to capitalize on for anyone that got Cade Cunningham there. Never mind if you got, 25 plus, 30 plus, laddered them up or something like that for the matchup. You had yourself a great night. One thing that I do have an eye on that I am actively sweating here is the over for Isaiah Hartenstein's rebounds, which was a low total, just 7.5. You figured if he got the minutes tonight, he should get there. He had 6 very quickly, not all in the first quarter, but very quickly for the number of minutes that he had played. I think he had 6 in the first 12 minutes that he was on the floor. He's at 21 minutes now, and he's still sitting at 6. So need 2 more from
Yeah.
him. Keep this game relatively close. It's an 8-point game right now. See if we can get that, and that would be helpful. That would go a long way for me tonight because some of these other bets obviously have not. So hopefully that one does. But scanning it here, just to see if there were any other props that I was on in this game. I don't think so. Nothing for any substantial, amount of money. I mean, the 2 that I mentioned were the 2 that I was more invested in this particular game anyway. And then Raptors Pacers, I was on 20 plus points for RJ Barrett. Took a while to get there. He was sitting at 15 through 3, and then with something like I don't even know if he checked in before like 4 or 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter, but came in and went on a little scoring barrage here for Toronto. So he got himself there, which is great. Pascal Siakam over for points. He was able to cash that. It's been a slow night for Halliburton, so that has not been ideal. But other stuff like I mentioned, there's some other stuff in the Miami and Sacramento game later on. Tips off in, as we sit here, about 50 minutes, and not too much in this Nets-Grizzlies game, which is, well on its way to a blowout. I mentioned I've got the over in this one. We'll see. I mean, over in this one is a low total, 214.5, and it's sitting at 106 at the break. So certainly is in the vicinity of cashing that, but we'll see if Memphis shows any life in half number 2.
Yeah, well, I'm sure they will, because they couldn't have looked any worse than what they did there in that first half. But you had mentioned it too. Scotty Barnes, I think you said earlier too, triple-double tonight. Great night for him and the Raptors.
This guy he's not Sabonis. He's not,
no,
Jokic. Like Scotty Barnes is not getting triple doubles left and right. In fact, I think earlier this season was only the first one of his career, and he's got maybe 3 this year now.
Yep. Yeah, 4 in the last 57 games, and he didn't have any prior to that. Not a guy that you would associate that kind of success across the board with, but they are doing a pretty good job here. Still 2 minutes ago, 122 to 113, 246.5 was the total in that. So anybody sitting with an over ticket is hoping to get those points going here. And you're right about Halliburton. Not 1 rebound, 7 assists, and 7 points. That is not great. But if we're being honest, I'm kind of shocked he played because they have been keeping an eye with that hamstring of his. Second of a back-to-back, not normally something I would have expected to see him in here, but didn't look the part here tonight.
You know what?
Not why?
And I guarantee I haven't even looked it up. I mean, I haven't looked at this. I knew his assists were down because I've got him over 11.5, which he's not going to touch obviously. But I bet he's played at least 25 minutes because you mentioned point. Like any level of surprise that he's out there being a back-to-back. He's not going to win MVP. He's not up for that. It's been a great year for him, but it's very important, with these new rules. We were talking about it with Joel Embiid, the fact that he's no longer MVP eligible because of the games played. Games played, minutes, requirements for these guys. It's not just those awards, the more glamorous. It's all NBA. It's everything. And that, are very important for contract incentives to, trigger certain levels for new deals. And so they're going to get Halliburton on the floor as much as humanly possible, and just to keep him where he needs to be in terms of that NBA bracket, if you will. And so, that's the only reason I'm not at all surprised that he's been out there. But it has been a generally ineffective night for him for sure. I mean, minus 15, he's 2 of 11 from the field. It's been a rough go.
It's been a really rough go for him here. But it's, like you said, it's a good point. About 30 minutes now, I think, on the court here tonight. So he passes that threshold here. And believe it or not, they just won't go away here. That's not really a shock. 122, 117 now. Minute and a half to go. And I think they're just getting ready to close out the third quarter. With the Knicks holding on to a 8-point lead, 92 to 84 in that one there. And then, of course, top of the hour, Miami and whoever remains available to them at this particular point will be playing the Sacramento Kings. That should be a good one here. And I think the Islanders gave up a goal. So I think the Stars managed to tie that game up there, that under 5.5. Yep. Didn't think we were going to get a ton of goals in that one to begin with. Islanders got one in the first. Dallas gets one back here in the second. And I still like the under 5.5 in this one here. It'd be great if the Islanders could win it for our buddy George Kurtz, but we know better. He'll be crying late night tears tonight, Adam. You and I
get
both
him on
know
the line.
this.
That's right. You'll be taking that dog out for a midnight walk around the block, just sort of shaking his head.
I'd be crying. Where did it all go wrong? We do have the puck dropping here in about 10 minutes with the Kings.
By a goal.
And the Oilers, who no doubt he probably had a parlay with the Oilers and the Islanders, poor guy. But that game coming up here, guys, in just about 10 minutes. Cam Stewart will be by here shortly. We'll get his thoughts on both these late night games as the Bruins and Kraken coming up at 10 o'clock Eastern time. Quick update, by the way, back and forth going on with Baylor and TCU. It looks like 10-9 TCU on top. And we're in overtime with West Virginia and K-State right now. 87-84. K-State up with a minute and a half to go. So don't go anywhere. Much still to be decided here as InGame Live Primetime continues.
Point guard, a great big that can block shots, a team that can play defense, and seniors that can put the ball in the hole. That's who you bet on. You don't bet on freshmen. You don't bet on teams that don't play defense. There you go.
I mean, you got to run the guy over to call a foul in a tie game in that kind of a spot. That was a bad job by those refs.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
If Tibbs can find a way to get the Knicks rolling again as everybody comes back, folks, they are going to shoot up the Eastern Conference standings. There are 33 wins. I think the Knicks have a chance to maybe, folks, ready? You think I'm crazy? They could get all the way to 2. It is not out of the question.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Like the Minnesota Wild were down by 2 goals today. They were down by 3 goals, actually, today at one point. And they came back and won. Like teams like, the Edmonton Oilers and the Coyote game went back and forth. The NHL really, you could argue, really is the best sport for in-game betting, where you can pull the trigger on both teams.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
welcome back in here. In-game live prime time on this Monday. It's the SportsGrid Network. Joe Raineri alongside Adam Kaufman here, and we welcome in the man coming up at the top of the hour, one Cam Stewart, ready to roll here, and just in time, Cam, because the puck's about to drop on those pesky Edmonton Oilers. Taking on the Kings and then the Bruins in Seattle. So at least some decent West Coast hockey coming up for us here tonight.
You're right, Joe. I'm just going to find out how am I going to take the Jake Knapp monies and lose them on hockey when I win in golf. Because that's what I do. I got a call from my girlfriend. Ring, ring. Hey, Cam, I heard Jake Knapp won. Isn't that the guy you took this week? I don't know, honey. Was you sure it was Knapp? Oh, yeah, steak dinner. Here we go. And the money's gone. Whatever you want. Couple bunches later. And can I get a 58-ounce porterhouse, please? Yeah, okay. Just check. Oh, $700 bill? That's good. Yeah, we'll go to a nice day anyway. Joe, dude, did you watch that golf tournament, Joe? I woke up. First drive, 3 fairways over. Puts one in the water. I go, uh-oh. Do I hedge on Valimaki? The Finnish god, whose cousin plays for the Arizona Coyotes. I'm like, you know what? Just a little bit. And I wrote it out. Thank God. I was going to put 400 more on Valimaki, but my boy Knapp figured it out. 2 fairways, Joe. I actually hit a winner on Sunday. Hallelujah. But we're not living in the past. That's the voice of Gabe Morency. Here I'm at 10. We're going to take a shot tonight. Hockey. Kaufman, he's a Boston guy. I won't hold it against him. Nice guy.
You love me.
I don't like the Bruins at all. It's anyway, here's the thing. The Bruins are a great hockey team. But, Joe, looking at this game, this is the 4th game of their road trip. I would smash Seattle tonight if Boston didn't blow that game to Gabe's Canucks late in that when they had the lead there. But here's the deal. Checking out Boston's schedule, they got Vegas on their way home, too. This is their 4th game on the road trip. I got to take a shot with the Kraken as a pooch in this game. Let's say, Joe, it's been hot and cold on the ice. I'm usually really good early, and the night games have been kind of iffy. I feel bad for giving you some losers last week, but I do like Seattle. Joe, I'm taking Edmonton. Kaufman taking it. And if Edmonton loses to the Kings tonight, I'll take them in the first period to come out hot. I'll take them in the game. And if they lose to Edmonton, we might, like Billy Madison, you're on my list. They're already on my list, but they're going to get off my list. I'm telling you, this team will drive you nuts. Saturday night, Joe, I'm doing my math for the golf. I'm like, oh, look at Edmonton. They're playing Calgary. Nazem Kadri went through McDavid like a hot knife through butter. What is Edmonton doing? Like, honest to God, you people laugh at the Leafs. Hey, Edmonton fans, who's won 7 games in a row and not choking? The Leafs. They'll choke in the playoffs just like you losers. But right now, we're better than you. So give it up. But we'll take Edmonton tonight. Sorry, Edmonton tourism line too, Joe. Like these guys, I'm just saying, betting this team will put you in the poorhouse. But the Kings, like, what do we make of the Kings, Kaufman and Joe? This team, they win 1 game against Columbus, then they get smoked again. I can't trust the Kings. I know it's a big price with the Oilers. I'll lay it down with the Oilers tonight and hope for the best, guys. But I'll tell you, Skinner's got to play better. The defense has to be better. And I'll tell you, these guys got to play 2-way hockey. One thing the Kings do, they can play an offensive game. So Edmonton has to jump all over them early. I don't want the fact that they have to come. If the Kings have to come from behind hockey, that's not their style. Their style is they got a 1-0, 2-0 lead and suffocate you. That's what the Kings do. But so we're going to take Edmonton and we're going to take a shot with the Kraken tonight. NBA, 7.5 with the Heat. I know Sacramento was good to us the other night, but I'm going to lay it down with Miami. They've been pretty gritty. Like, this team's covering numbers right now, so too many points. I'll take the Heat.
Any interest in live betting these Islanders and Stars? 1-1 game right now, late second period.
Kaufman, I got to tell you something. That game just smelt like a rat. Like, at the start of it, I'm like, okay. Dallas, they're one of these teams. They've been losing a lot. And one thing I know about the Islanders is I prefer to take them on the road as a dog, playing there. Brett, very, very similar. Like we talk about Leafs in Edmonton. The Islanders have a lot of kings in them. Not a good scoring team. They'll play better on the road. They'll suffocate you, and they want to play a lower scoring game. Yes, if you give me the Islanders a dog, I'm very, very interested. I'm on the Raptors right now. It looks like they're going to beat Indiana. The last couple of games, they've been good. So I don't know what's going on with the Pacers. They get their defense. They're not going anywhere with that defense. Like if you're going to let the Raptors score 130 on you, I don't know what to tell you. TCU, I'm leaning in college basketball tonight, guys. I don't know how you feel about the TCU Baylor game. Kudos to Gabe and everybody who was on Houston this week. I was going to take Baylor, and I just didn't hit the button. I'm like, thank God I didn't. The Cougars won that big game on Saturday, and you know what? I just don't trust Baylor. TCU, they play really close games. Small favorite, -2. I will take the Horned Frogs in college. That's what I'm playing tonight, guys.
Ooh, well,
So are you watching this match?
19.
Who even knew this thing was on?
Nobody's watching
nobody.
it. I found out when I got an email. I got an email from HBO Max about it earlier today, saying the match is on. What?
Yeah, and you're like,
who's participating in this
cares? Right, Kaufman?
Yeah.
Who cares? Oh, Roach Gang and Rory and Lexington. Who cares? Honestly, golf,
nobody.
get rid of this. It sucks.
Yes.
It's over.
I just saw my buddy Jason Sobel put a tweet out that I wholeheartedly agree with. He said, I have an idea for the next, rendition of the match. Get rid of the golf. Like, get rid of the real golf that people don't care about, and just turn it into a game of horse. Like, have the guys challenge each other to, make it a skills competition, challenge each other to hit certain shots. I think it's a great idea. Like, I would tune in for that. I want to see some golf trick shots. I got to watch Dude Perfect with my kids to see it. Otherwise, show it to me from professionals. That's what I want.
I'm with you, Kaufman.
Yes.
Honest to God, like, when I asked Joe, I'll bet on kids golf. I'll go down to the mini putt and go, who's hot? Like Flanders Kid versus Bart. I'm in. Yeah. I'm that spectator. Who do I want? I'll take the dog in this. Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? Like, I'm on this kids putting competition. I'm looking at this stuff live, going, the match with these people.
Yeah.
Like, and I love Max Homa. You know what I mean? He's one of my favorite golfers. I'm like, nobody cares anymore, guys. Like, you know what? You make it like the big break. Who can put this thing through a pane of glass? Who's going to chip over? You're right, Kaufman, into a hoop or a net. Like crazy things. You make it like a skills competition instead of this crap. Honestly, I know PGA Tour, you don't listen to me or don't care about what I think, but I don't care about what you think. Lose it, because it sucks. Nobody's watching this crap. By the way, Jake Knapp, Joe, Adam, this guy's like the president of the Anaheim Ducks fan club. Like, he's got an Anaheim. I'm like, this guy's amazing. Also, imagine being his girl from Ottawa. You met this guy with a career earnings of like nothing, and he makes 1.7 over the weekend. Hey, this is great for our 6-month relationship. Now he's flush.
Well, his story,
anyway, his
grandfather
was
awesome.
Dude, Jake
I was reading about him earlier. He was a bouncer at a club for 9 months to basically feed his his golf habit, because he couldn't afford to to play golf while he was trying to qualify for the tour. That's awesome. Good for him.
No, he's a good dude. Canadian Tour, that's where he made his bacon. And then he went up to the other tours, got his card. He's been close before. And I don't know how the hell he won on Sunday. When I watched him play, I'm like, oh God. Like, I just realized, like, I know how nervous you must be. Imagine making nothing your whole life and you're thinking, oh my God, if I win today, I get on close to 2 million. I'm changing my life forever. Like, I don't know how, like, I go, this guy's, I don't know how he won this golf tournament. He didn't, like, he was spraying it all over the place, but he got up and down a lot. And Mackey made a couple mistakes too. And nobody went low enough, but it was great. That's it, guys. I don't really know what else to say about this golf and stuff like that. Anything live? I'm going to take a shot with the Islanders. I think, Adam, you were asking me that question before. I like the Islanders. I think they can get it done.
Well, the one thing what's hysterical is this apparently is going on right now at night at a golf course that I have no idea where it is, but it's apparently around the block for me, because I'm going to be at PGA National this week here for what used to be the Honda Classic is now the Cognizant Classic. And the only guy that's in single digits is Rory McIlroy. And now that I know he's playing in this Fugazi thing, there's no way I'm betting him in any way, shape, or form at the PGA National here. But I do think there's going to be a big number that we can probably get around here for this. You know how this course is. Wind blows over the weekend. It plays, there's water on 15, 16 of the 18 holes. The greens are huge. The bear trap. But this usually where we get somebody like Kirk last year was a 40 to 50 to 1 shot when he won it. I think we can make some money with this tournament this week here, Cam.
Couldn't agree more, Joe. And you know who finished second in that tournament to Kirk off the top of my head? Our boy, Eric Cole. Former Carolina Hurricanes
player,
right? And he's been kind of lingering in the weeds, been very good for the top 20 and 10 market. This could be his week. And I remember he should have beat Kirk. And remember when Kirk put one right off the Honda there? I'm like, here comes Cole.
Yes.
But he started to feel the pressure too, and he gagged. And then Kirk finally nutted a shot in the second playoff hole, I think it was. So, yeah, watch out for a lot of these guys. I would never take Rory. I don't care how good Rory is.
No.
This guy might 4-putt a green. He could put like 6 in the water. The thing about Rory McIlroy as a favorite is he can have have a 6-shot lead and it could be 2 shots after he takes a quad on a hole. I don't want a guy like that. I want a guy that can plot around, linger, and then we can hit him live. Like Rory's a great golfer and all, but he's a horrible bet as a favorite, man. This guy does not know how to minimize damage to take bogeys, triples, and quads. Like,
nope.
At this course, you can be in big trouble if you lose it too. The wind picks up. You said it, Joe. Water everywhere. So yeah, we'll have some good golf picks this week. Hopefully, we're on the same stuff, Raineri. But yeah, I just don't want to lose all the Jake Knapp monies in one day. I got to get through the week here, and my girlfriend wants me to do better. Yeah.
Is that you managing your bankroll, Cam? I didn't think you were capable of that.
Ain't happening.
I don't know how to manage a bankroll. That's the problem, Adam. and now my lady, but the thing about my woman is she knows what I bet on too. Because I bet tennis with her and I bet golf with her. So when she knows I'm winning and sees like the account up like $3,000, it's like, instead of let's cash out and do whatever, it's like, how do we roll this over in the 6 tennis tournaments that are on right now? Anyway, yeah, it should be fun, but yeah, you're right, Joe.
Just tell you put everything on your boy Corey Connors, and let's let it ride, darling. That's it. We're going everything on Corey Connors to get it done here in this tournament here. Unreal. We'll have an update for you guys across the scoreboard. We'll do it next here on the grid.
Point guard, a great big that can block shots, a team that can play defense, and seniors that can put the ball in the hole. That's who you bet on. You don't bet on freshmen. You don't bet on teams that don't play defense. There you go.
I mean, you got to run the guy over to call a foul in a tie game in that kind of a spot. That was a bad job by those refs.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
And Tibbs can find a way to get the Knicks rolling again as everybody comes back, folks. They are going to shoot up the Eastern Conference standings. There are 33 wins. I think the Knicks have a chance to maybe, folks, ready? You think I'm crazy? They could get all the way to 2. It is not out of the question.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
Like the Minnesota Wild were down by 2 goals today. They were down by 3 goals actually today at one point, and they came back and won. Like teams like, the Edmonton Oilers and the Coyote game went back and forth. The NHL really, you could argue, really is the best sport for in-game betting, where you can pull the trigger on both teams.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in-game live. We are primetime here on the Sports Grid Network. Joe Raineri alongside Adam Kaufman. Cam Stewart hanging out with us for another segment here. He'll take over at the top of the hour with Gabe Morency as we were watching the scoreboard here, Cam, and the Islanders now tied it up here 2-2 against the Stars. Not exactly, I mean, Anja wasn't in goal. I didn't think we were going to get a ton of goals in this one, but what is it? Next goal wins, you think, in the third, or are we looking at a couple more goals before it's all said and done here?
I got to be honest with you. I was thinking, too, it was going to be like the game started 0-0, and the Islanders scored really late in the first period. So I'm like, wow, I'm surprised we got 4 goals, live total 6.5. I got to be honest with you, 3-3, we hit the over. I would lean over in this game, actually. I think both teams are probably good for another goal, Joe. The problem is you get that 3-2 and then maybe the empty nighter and you could lose by the hook. But I still like the Islanders. They're plus 112 here on my account here at FanDuel. I think they might be a good play in that spot. These other games are just starting right now, too. What am I going to do? Maybe. What do you guys think about the over in Edmonton, LA? I've been like totals. I'm more of a sides man, but I got to believe the Edmonton Oilers, like they give up a lot of goals. I know the Kings will try to suffocate them, though, but winning a 3-2 game is not really conducive to success. I think Edmonton might get do you guys see like a 5-3 type of game? Maybe we score, Joe, but I think you're actually better at totals than I am. I'm leaning over in this game, but I don't know. And the Seattle, I kind of like the over in both games. I think Boston, Seattle, 5.5 might be too low to get to 6, but we'll see.
Who's in goal tonight, Adam? Who we is it Skinner in goal? Who's in who we looking at here? So
let me tell you.
And who's
I have to imagine
Talbot?
It's got to be, right?
I would assume Allmark for the Bruins.
Yes,
but let me see.
It's Allmark versus I think Grubauer tonight.
Yeah, that's
just
right.
Look.
So
all right,
Grubauer.
So it's Allmark, Grubauer, and then Skinner, Rittich. Rittich is going for the Kings.
Boy. Red light Rittich?
Cam.
Or big save Dave. When they're winning, he's big save Dave. When he's losing, it's red light Rittich. Who knows what we're going to get tonight? Remember Montreal's old goalie, red light Rasico? Me and Gabe used to love Rasico. Oh, he's giving up 7 tonight. Poor Rasico. But
he's
anyway,
9-3-3 on the year. Isn't that kind of crazy? I mean, it's kind of amazing that he's come in and they've actually handled business here. Yeah. But I'm with you. I don't know how we don't play the over in this here.
I'm playing.
It feels like it's got to be.
I got to tell you,
it's got to be.
Cam just hit it twice.
Yeah, Adam. I look at my golf stuff. I'm like, some stuff I hit like 6 times. I'm like, what happened the first time? Like, they got it one. I had a matchup bet like Jagger versus Olesen. And I'm like, I'm looking at it going, wow, you hit it like 6 times. Like, I don't remember even doing it like twice. Like, I do it all the time. I don't know what I'm doing. Like, to me, clicking is probably like
sleep
somebody. I don't sleepwalk. I literally get up, go to the computer, and just start hitting buttons. And hopefully it wins. No, honestly, I'm like that chain smoker who can't like smoke 3 packs a day. That's me. My cigarettes is my keyboard or my phone for betting. Like it's out of control. Joe, 3 packs of Cools a day. It's insane. Yeah.
It's good to go here, Cam. I think we're you're gonna sweep the board. You're gonna be on one of these trends now where unfortunately you're gonna have to start probably lying to the missus here a little bit here. You're gonna have to start, a little less is more. She don't need to know every play.
He already said she's got access to the account, though.
She does. The best is when she loses, I never ask her for money. You know what I mean? She's like, you just throw 100 on the 49ers for me in the Super Bowl? I'm not going to tell her what I lost.
Yes.
Like, I have the straight up money line there. It's like, it's funny. Like, when you win, you collect. When you lose, you don't pay. I'd be wanting to bet with me, too. I'm like a bookie. Yeah, don't worry about it. Just take me.
I love it.
I want to bet with me too.
Adam, I'm don't worry. I never collect. I just pay. That's what I do. Yeah, just absolute idiot. But,
you're pretty much the guy in that show, Bookie. If you guys haven't watched that yet.
Yeah, that's classic. Yeah, guy's absolutely hysterical.
I tell kids now, I go, you don't have to do what I did, and I wanted to give them a valuable lesson, but. The one time I did meet my bookie when we go up to the garage or, the bakery or whatever, I always came home with groceries. And it was something that I really like a nice fresh baked lasagna, a case of wine, sauce, Like, you know what I mean? Like, whatever he had, like, you know, the charcuterie hanging in the drum set there in the garage. I'm like, just fill my bag. You know, I'm paying you, fill my bag. Like, that's what we do.
That's correct.
I kind of miss that touch. No offense to the sports books. I get $50 bonuses. I'd rather have like food or wine, alcohol, anything. Like, that's the bonus I like. That's the bonus I like.
Cam, let me ask you here. We've got the almost a trade deadline coming up here in the NHL. And so who's shopping? I mean, is there any real names? Is there anybody out there that's going to move the needle? And what do your boys in Toronto need to get, if anything, here to make a final push?
Problem with Toronto is they have no money. So I'm kind of looking at the situation, though. Like, look at Austin Matthews, Marner. Know what they will do? I think they're probably going to go for a veteran defenseman, just a guy. They need defensive help. It's very simple. And their goaltender. The thing is, they don't need to really make a move for a goaltender because Justin Wall, their starting goalie, has been out for months. He'll probably be back for the playoffs. So you have him. I don't really trust Jones, and you have Samsonov luggage there, who he's good at. He's kind of like Rittich. He's hot and cold, mostly cold. So these guys need definitely a veteran defenseman. And maybe one more player, a forward, they need a grinder. The problem with the Leafs is when you look, and I really like Jack's Rangers because they're kind of like the Leafs, but their tough guys are more skilled. Like, see that kid who got called up? The guy's like fighting the toughest guys. Dude, I go,
every time out.
Oh, I love it. Good. I love it. You know what? That's what we used to do when we played hockey. Like, the guy would go up and go, do you want to make this junior B team? You got to fight this guy. It's like an old school, hockey.
He took on a dude half his side on Columbus and got the snot beat out of him. I'm like, dude, you can't be, you can't be 6'7" taking on dude 6 foot. And you got absolutely smoked in that game yesterday. Absolutely unreal. But it's like, settle down, dude. You don't have to fight every game here, but certainly the Rangers could use it.
Jack was saying he's a Ranger fan. The best is, too, everybody knows his strategy. He hits you with a couple early, then he gasses, and then he gets murdered. It's like an MMA fight. They just waited for him to gas. It's awesome. Yes. Honestly, I love hockey the old school way. Nobody does that anymore, so kudos. Rangers are a scary team, but guys, watch out. Calgary is one of those very interesting teams at the deadline. They're going nowhere. Markstrom is a goalie. The Leafs would use a goal. The Kings, the Devils.
Yep.
I'd say the Kings and the Devils, more than anybody, need a goaltender. It's not the Devils are just, I don't know what they're doing this year. Like, they throw in Dawes, they throw in Vanacek, they reek. And this team, it's almost like they've lost something. Like, they were a really good hockey team. You guys remember, like, they beat the Rangers and stuff. I like the Devils to almost like be like cup contenders this year. Like, they're getting murdered. Like Tampa Bay, Joe, you know, you're in Florida. This team has been gross lately, and they're beating the Devils 4-1. I'm like, how does New Jersey do this? Like, they should be good. So I don't know if they need a reset, if Lindy Ruff needs to go, whatever, but they need a goaltender. And don't be surprised if Jacob Markstrom of the Flames, there'll be teams very interested in him. He can get really, really, really hot when he's on. So we'll see, because I don't think Calgary's going anywhere. But beating the Oilers people are like, what are they, buyers or sellers? So we'll see that market. Adams' team, too, Boston, they need a little bit of depth on the defensive side. A lot of guys have been banged up this year. So I remember that game against the Oilers. They lost like 3 guys. I got to hand it to the Bruins, though. They just keep on grinding and grinding and grinding. It doesn't matter who goes on their team. They're tough. And they'll be a tough out to anybody. But if they get another defenseman, I'd be very, very scared of those guys as well. Rangers look good. Jack's Rangers, I think, are a team that everybody's scared of right now. But they were in a bad spot against Columbus. That's what happened. Oh, guys, another tip for everybody. Sunday dogs. I don't know what it is in every sport. I make notes. Like when Rick Pitino dressed as God in the game, St. John's. And then you look, and I know the guy's wearing like a white suit. I'm like, what is this? Like, everybody goes to heaven. And then in hockey, think about, you said it, like Kaufman, everybody, like Columbus beat the Rangers. Buffalo beat Carolina. Detroit was a dog. When they were down, they did it again. They came back and won against Chicago on Chris Chelios night. I don't know what it is about Sunday. Look at basketball, too. A lot of I don't know what it is about Sundays, but if you blindly bet dogs on Sundays, you'll win more than you lose. And I don't have any data to back it up, but it happens every week. I don't know why.
I don't like what you're doing there. So let me ask you, 2 teams definitely should be sellers. Ottawa, Because not a terrible situation. That's it. And Pittsburgh. Shouldn't Pittsburgh, as soon as they kind of get out of there, and is Fleury a goalie that a team would be interested? Maybe Minnesota can unload there for somebody.
Great question, Joe. I saw a report with Fleury to say that he actually wants to help Minnesota on their run. Even though Gustafsson will get probably the start for the Wild, if they get in, he would be the guy they go to if he struggles. I think a lot of teams would take a shot on Fleury. He's a veteran, teams that are close to the cup. Hey, look what Jonathan Quick's done with the Rangers. It doesn't hurt if you don't have to give up too much, right? Mm-hmm. And as for Pittsburgh, the reports, apparently Vegas is going hard for Jake Gensel, and so is Vancouver. Vancouver really wants another guy. So those are the two teams. I don't know how true these reports are, but apparently it's like a bidding war. Vancouver and Pittsburgh for Jake Gensel would be a nice piece. And Vancouver's one of those teams, man. I know they're young, but I was talking to Sherapan's buddy Matt Peralt. He's got him 28-1. I don't think they're going to go that far, but the thing about hockey is it's really weird. Sometimes young teams they don't know they're young and they get on a roll and they start winning and playing good and things can change. I don't look at that kind of stuff. But you're right, Adam. That's the whole thing. Oh, they haven't been there before. Hot goalie, you could beat anybody. The Winnipeg Jets could win if Hellebuck. That's the thing. They're not the best team, but they do have one of the best goalies. So that's a very scary thing. If the Rangers get any type of goaltending, holy geez, now their goalies are playing kind of decently. That would be a very scary thing. Joe, I just bet Cole at 30-1, and I'm looking at
30-1.
I'm looking at Burger Time. Nice, smooth In-N-Out burger. Daniel Berger, Florida State product. He's coming off the injury. This guy has really played well in the tournaments before. He's ramping up. Every start this year has been getting better, kind of like the Jake Knapp story. Berger's a really good golfer. Injuries are behind him. He might be sneaky this week. Is it the Cognizant? I can't get over it. It's the Honda Classic.
It's a Honda.
Yeah, it's a Honda.
Going to be the Honda Classic. I don't even want to hear it. Did the Knicks just blow this game against Detroit, or did they win it?
No, so I've been intently following this one while you guys have been, talking hockey trades, and the Knicks squeaked this one out. They won by 2, but I'm sitting here. I'm sitting. Yeah. So forget covering the 11.5 or anything like that. But I was sitting here sweating my bigger prop bets in this game. So I had told you a few times, Joe, about chasing Hartenstein over 7.5 rebounds, and I'm watching this thing. He had been out for a while. They check him in for the last 5-6 minutes. He gets one rebound real quick, and he's just sitting on 7. I'm going to get hooked. No. I'm going to get hooked. I'm going to get hooked.
I got to tell you, Adam, I'm done with those props.
He got his 8th rebound with 1.3 seconds left. He got an offensive rebound with a second left. Thank you, Isaiah.
How sharp are these damn props, man? These Harvard grads.
It's ridiculous.
You got to get them when they come out at night, like Morency. You got to stay up till 5 a.m., click, and then take a nap.
That's correct.
You got it.
All right, Cam, get out of here. We'll close it out, Cam. Coming up top of the hour here. We'll close it out next.
A great big that can block shots, a team that can play defense, and seniors that can put the ball in the hole. That's who you bet on. You don't bet on freshmen. You don't bet on teams that don't play defense. There you go.
I mean, you got to run the guy over to call a foul in a tie game in that kind of a spot. That was a bad job by those refs.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
If Tibbs can find a way to get the Knicks rolling again as everybody comes back, folks, they are going to shoot up the Eastern Conference standings. There are 33 wins. I think the Knicks have a chance to maybe, folks, ready? You think I'm crazy? They could get all the way to 2. It is not out of the question.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
The Minnesota Wild were down by 2 goals today. They were down by 3 goals, actually, today at one point. and they came back and won. Like teams like, the Edmonton Oilers and the Coyote game went back and forth. The NHL really, you could argue, really is the best sport for in-game betting, where you can pull the trigger on both teams.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
All right, we got a good one here coming up in the Big 12 with Baylor up 2 on TCU, 25-23 here. They're playing the final minute there. They'll go to the break, and, of course, coming up top of the hour, you will have Cam Stewart, Gabe Morency. They'll carry you all the way through here. Adam Kaufman, I'm so glad that Hartenstein came in that final second, made you sweat it out, but got it done, so you are good to go. I'm still trying to figure out how it is the Knicks let him back in. I thought they were going to be running away with that game, but give the folks what you're looking at once again. Miami, Sacramento coming up, tipping off in just a minute.
Yeah, so Miami plus 7.5, Sabonis to be basically held down. Under 20.5 points, 19.5 points, depending on where you're able to get it. Still, I think it's probably mostly 19.5s. Went even bigger on under 40. It was 43, now 42.5 PRA points, rebounds, assists. So basically just looking for Bam Adebayo and company to hold Domantas Sabonis in check, hoping that happens tonight. Let him go out there, get 15, 11, and 7 or something like that. That'd be fine. That's a quiet night for Sabonis. That's what I'm looking for. And a Heat win again. Some overs on the likes of Caleb Martin, on Yaquez, all these guys. We talked about it. There's so few guys that are going to be available for the Heat and Spoelstra. Keep this game close. Keep your starters and short rotation out there readily available, and hopefully a cash for Baylor here. I'm looking at up by 2, about 30 seconds to go in the opening half. We need Baylor to ideally win this thing, make it sweat free. But the plus 2.5. Baylor goes out, takes care of business. Sabonis is held down. It's a good night for me. So let's hope that happens.
Yeah, amen. The under is certainly looking good here with Baylor and TCU, and there is nobody does next man up like the Miami Heat. So if it ain't broke, let's go with Miami here tonight. Take it as many as you want. Adam, always a pleasure, man. We'll be back again tomorrow. Another edition of the InGame Live Primetime. Good luck with those plays. We'll talk again soon.